Welcome to these bi-monthly conversations with my dear friend Konstantin, one of the most respected voices on YouTube about what is happening inside Russia. And there is a lot happening inside Russia, which we're going to unpack in today's episode. His channel Inside Russia comments insightfully on Russia's descent into authoritarianism over the last couple of years, or last couple of decades, if you like, as well. He is, of course, outside Russia with no idea of when he can return there. And in fact, he's joined by more and more people outside Russia as Putin's regime turns on its own. That's going to be one of the themes we talk about today as well. Before we jump in, please do help support the fantastic work that Konstantin does on his channel by checking out his Patreon, I think it is, and various other bits and pieces there. They'll be in the description of this video. His work is incredibly impactful. He's one of the most important voices on the scene commenting on what's going on. And if you're not following him, I have to question your life choices. Konstantin, welcome back to the channel.
Jonathan, thank you very much for having me. Fantastic to see you. I enjoy every single conversation that we have. It's been some time, and let's do it again.
Absolutely. And let's face it, there's no shortage of things to talk about. Today, we're going to talk about Solovyov going rogue. We're going to talk about the purge of Shoigu and his circle, what that means. We're going to touch upon the internet shutdown, which seems to be accelerating rather than retreating, and it's causing a lot of frustration on the home front and pain on the front lines. Then there's loads and loads of other things. And coming back to that thing in the intro about more and more people joining you in exile, there is the rumor that Vladislav Surkov may be joining you, hopefully not in the same room or even the same city or country, but I don't know if you've heard this rumor, and if even these sort of those who constructed Putin's regime are now fleeing it. What does that tell us?
Jonathan, on my channel, I have a series of videos called The Architects of Putin's Russia. And Surkov certainly has a place in that series. I am currently making a video of that man. He is not very well known to the Western audience, but he is one of the architects of this system that is called Russia these days. And he's the one who basically, he's the behind the political system, current political system that he envisioned and suggested and Putin helped create. So the rumors have it he has fled. About a week ago, he fled Russia. He was notified that there is an arrest coming, and basically he's a very smart person. He got up and left. Obviously, Surkov had um, in Russia we call it запасной аэродром, place Plan B. Okay, he
A
had somewhere
spare
to
airfield, all
go
right.
to,
Yeah.
and it is at this point it is unclear where he is. Okay, there have been rumors of different places, but they're just not confirmed. And there has been one rumor that Surkov tried and propaganda tried to counter this information, saying, "Oh, he's in Russia. I'm in Russia. Whatever. He's not." Um, it would not surprise me if he would end up in the UK or in the USA, trading information for safety, for personal safety. But I think that we will find out where he is, where he has gone to in the future. I sure hope he doesn't come to Tashkent. He doesn't come for breakfast at Tashkent Breakfast Club. I
He
would
would not
not
be
take that
welcome. Yeah.
guy. No, 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 no. He would not be welcome. I wouldn't take it easy. I would. Anyway, I hope he doesn't come and he doesn't face us and me personally.
This would be a huge thing. Now, obviously, as a private citizen, he couldn't just come to Britain because he's a sanctioned individual. But if he were to collaborate with the intelligence services, that, of course, would be huge because there are probably few people alive who actually understand more about Putin's inner circle, the functioning of his regime. And even for the historical record, it could be extraordinary to actually get the inside story on the regime. That's assuming that he tells the truth. And of course, he is infamously rather creative with the veracity, as they say.
He is not one of them, but he is the one who is behind the political system of Vladimir Putin. And not only he doesn't know, he created it. He possesses, he's the original holder of the knowledge, I would say. Yes, it would be a very interesting ordeal to see him cooperate with one of the Western countries, but we'll see. I haven't heard of any real information, proven information of whereabouts. I think I've heard something that either is one of close members of the family is a UK citizen, wife, but don't quote me on that. That's just a rumor. Okay, time will
Not
tell.
unheard of, though. I mean, Lavrov, Peskov, and others have family members who are happily residing in the West. Indeed, it is rumored that
Yes.
Putin's daughter works in an art gallery in Paris. So these people do find, let's say, sanctuary in the West. That's one of the things I'm quite critical of, actually. You can't expect Russians to necessarily take their regime apart if we allow safe haven for all of the relatives of the people operating that criminal regime.
Um, with Surkov, his whereabouts are unconfirmed, and his close family members also, it's not confirmed that they are citizens of Western countries. But with Shoigu, it's confirmed. With Lavrov, it's confirmed. Shoigu's daughter holds a French citizenship. Lavrov's child holds, I think that's daughter also holds American citizenship, American by birth. Other high officials, it's confirmed, and it's outrageous. The only persons who can go to Europe now, it seems, only very rich, close relatives of those in charge of Putin's regime. Okay, that's the Europeans still give visas to wives and children of Russian governors, to owners of Ministry of Defense, military industrial complex factories and their families, and regular Russian folks are just cut off. Okay, so to me it's outrageous, but I don't know if you
I
want
mean,
to
I live in
discuss that or
Oxford.
not, but
I live in
there's not
Oxford. I
much to
get,
discuss. What's that?
I live in Oxford. I go to the cafes here, and I mean, one could argue that maybe some of them are Ukrainians, but I tend to be able to distinguish between Ukrainian and Russian, accents and terminology. There are a lot, one would presume, children of the wealthy here studying English to get them, I think, out of the country while all this is going on. Keep them kind of safe over there. One of the other distinguishing features, and this is going to be a little unfortunate, is I tend to be able to distinguish Ukrainians from Russians because the Russian kids swear a lot more. They swear pretty crudely and pretty viciously all the time. Like every third word and that's not going to be everyone, but you just kind of hear it and you're like, okay, that's a Moscow accent. Yep, that's just like bad word,
Yeah,
bad word, bad word, bad word.
it's unfortunate, but I'd draw your attention to the fact that it's always been like that. The rich and powerful Russians never intended their children to stay and live in Russia for the rest of their lives, especially politicians and those in the vertical of power, because they knew how unfair that system is. They knew it's not forever. They knew it sooner or later end would come. That is why every one of them, each one of them, had Plan B. Place in the West they called home, and they sent all their children. They transferred assets. They sent their spouses. And do you know how in Russia they call London?
Londongrad.
Londongrad, Londongrad, yes, and it's in popular culture now, Londongrad, because those who close to Putin, his regime, their families have been in London. It's not just since they sent everyone starting 2022. It's been like that since I don't know for the past 20 years, I'd
Yeah.
say.
And of course, they're not calling it Londonburg because it's not attracting, the cultured elite. It's Londongrad because this is the political elite, many of whom have inherited status and power from, dare I say, even the Soviet period. And when I say, about the swearing, I'm not saying that this denotes Russians per se. What I'm saying here is that this is a kind of nekulturny class. This is a moneyed class with absolute impunity, but they are not the intellectual elite. They are not the
Novarish.
cultured elite. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Let's dive into the next topic because this one is interesting. And I got this from a video made by Michael Naki just a couple of days ago, but it has been featured on other channels as well. And this is the video where Solovyov, in his recent broadcasts, seems to be going rogue. Now, he has been the ultimate in regime propagandists, even when it was distinctly unpopular. He would toe the official line and in a very brutal fashion. He seems to be rather critical of all sorts of things at the moment, including the shutdown of Starlinks, the shutdown of communications, the shutdown of apps, the impact at the front. He's been talking about the lack of drones, the lack of money. Okay, he's blaming Nabutlina for everything, which sort of is a regime narrative because it's quite handy to blame all the problems on the central bank ahead of the central bank. But he does seem to be going off script in criticizing the army, criticizing the funding of the army, criticizing these communication bans. What's your take on this? Does he represent himself? Does he represent Z Patriots? Does he represent factions within the regime? Or is this some kind of, complex game that is difficult for us to understand?
Good question. A very complex answer I'm going to give you. First, about Solovyov. He is definitely part of the official propaganda. He has a place inside propaganda with his own role and function. He's not independent, not in any way, but he is out for himself. See that there's a difference there. He's part of the system, but his interests are with himself. I will remind you of what happened in 1991 when the USSR fell apart. And I repeat that story over and over. It was a fascinating time. One day we just woke up in a different country. And 3 days prior, nothing had warned us about such drastic change. So basically, in on August 18th, we went to beds in the USSR and everything was normal. Life was normal and business as usual. We woke up next morning and something odd was happening. And 2 days after, we found ourselves waking up in a completely different country. And I would like to remind you, not a lot of people remember, I do very much so, um, turncoats. Turncoating happening back then was just amazing. All the commies, all of a sudden, found themselves to be Democrats. Every single one of them. They didn't admit, I was a communist, I'm going to stay with my principles. No. Every single one of them turned out to be the oppositioner, opposing to the communist regime. And then when they were confronted with facts, but you said that 2 weeks ago, said, you know what, deep inside, I was thinking completely different thing.
Including
Turncoating was
Yeltsin,
absolutely,
including Boris Yeltsin, who was
yes, yes, very much so, very much so. Yes, everyone. And what we're seeing right now, the smartest, the shrewdest propagandists, they start smelling smoke in Russia. Just a little bit, but you know what? There is no smoke without fire. They know things are going to change. And Solovyov and a few other people, he's the most resilient, the most ruthless, the most slyest out of them all, right? He knows that the changes are coming, and he starts laying foundation for his turncoating. Okay, when things will change, he will stand up and say, "Well, look, remember what I said about the army. Remember, I was speaking the truth. No drones, army's falling apart or whatever, and yeah, that was me, of course." And then he will find some kind of a base for further turncoating, and I'm pretty sure that's what he's doing right now. It's very interesting to see. You have to really look for details in his public programs, in his speeches, in his, you know, him speaking to other propagandists. But you have to notice these things. You have to know what to look for. It's a very interesting process. I'm writing things down. Okay, it's gonna be really hard to fool me. They're not gonna do it because it's on record.
You're keeping the receipts. I think that's what you're saying there, and that's
Keeping
an
the receipts.
important
Yeah.
thing to do. Um, and we'll come to the internet shutdown in detail in our next conversation as well. But I've seen a lot of people trying to link the so-called purge of Shoigu's group. One of his deputies and confidants looks like he's about to go down for various charges, whether they're spurious or not, who knows. And some people are linking the internet shutdown to this purge of Putin's inner circle. Do you think that's a fair connection, or are people sort of maybe linking these things together when they don't really have a connection?
There is a connection. I'm not sure how strong that is, but certainly there is a connection. Now, I reported on that. I think that banning internet in Russia is a very complex issue, and it cannot be explained in a couple sentences. Okay, it's all things come in one point, in one place, in one time. Okay, I think that Kirienko, the head of VK, Kirienko Jr., not the senior, well, senior also, they both are involved because they want to get rid of competition, and they want to keep on receiving subsidies for VK and Max Messenger that they've been pushing very hard. And then there's KGB, also very interested in limiting ability of Russian people to communicate with each other because, hey, we have a fresh example. Iran, just late December, early January, look what happened in Iran. People started using different messengers to coordinate resistance. The Russians don't want that, certainly. And one of the reasons is that, and it's very odd. There are a few very odd things about the internet blockage in Moscow and in St. Petersburg. Like if you go to Moscow, the center of Moscow is completely offline. It has been for days now. Um, Offline mobile internet and offline wired connections. Now, if you go on its outskirts of Moscow, someplace you can still find internet. And it's very odd. Usually it works the other way. Moscow dies last. In the center of Moscow, Tsao, Центральный автономный округ, dies the last in Moscow. It died first. First in Moscow and then first in Russia. Very odd. Well, don't forget that all major HQs of major agencies in Russia are located in central Moscow. The Ministry of Defense, the Parliament, the Kremlin itself, although I'm not sure if anyone is in Kremlin these days. I think it's empty, But the United Russia Party, a lot of senators and members, and other agencies, including Silovik agencies. And there have been a lot of questions about what has been happening inside Moscow. Not like your typical average banning, like cutting off internet in Russia, but inside Moscow. Okay, what a coincidence! They just arrested Salikov and Shoigu's second man, and pretty much that's it. No one else is free at this point from the Shoigu team except for Shoigu himself and the governor of Moscow province. Salikov, the wallet and the right-hand man, is imprisoned. But he's not imprisoned. He's not in prison. He's actually under house arrest. So he's given an opportunity to speak against Shoigu, and he also has given an opportunity to coordinate his actions with other generals. Okay, so that's a question. Coincidence? Well, just too many coincidences. So I think that there was a signal or a number of signals for Putin, for the Kremlin, about possible. I can't say the coup because a coup would have happened by now. Okay, if it was a prepared coup. But what's this right word? Uneasiness among the general, perhaps elevated chatter higher than normal between the generals, between the military, perhaps between Siloviki, and just to feel better be safe than sorry. Okay, they've caught Moscow, the center of Moscow, to slow things down, to make things more difficult. Okay, because if you don't have Telegram, if you don't have internet, you are forced to communicate with others. If you are plotting something, it's much easier to trace you, okay, than with internet. You have to meet people physically, you have to use telephone lines, things like that. So I think there is something in this theory, but I really think that what we're seeing right now throughout Russia is all of that combined.
And of course, it's causing extreme problems. So if we take the blocking of apps, such as WhatsApp, and Telegram, that seems to be causing huge issues at the front. Now, we don't really touch on military issues, but unusually, this is now coming back in some fairly major criticism in the Z Patriot community. And some of Ukraine's recent gains on the front are directly linked to the loss of Starlink, the loss of these apps, the loss of communication, the incoherence it's caused. Some of the Ukrainian gains are evolution of techniques and drone warfare. Absolutely. So it's a mixture of stuff, but also inconvenience. It seems that finally the civilian population in Moscow who've been able to pretend the war isn't on or just keep their heads down, carry on earning money, enjoying cafes and shops and whatever. Well, first of all, cafes and shops are closing down. Money is potentially, people are getting more worried about sort of money and income. And now finally, there's the internet shutdown, which hits them directly. You've seen these videos of people with paper maps, pages, etc. But also, Ukraine has clearly stepped up its campaign of drone harassment in Moscow, closing down transport infrastructure, closing down the airports. There's just been a 3-day intensive campaign like that that's caused a huge amount of disruption. And yet, news of that, chatter about that, they're clearly trying to suppress that. They're not talking about it, they're not addressing it. And the internet shutdown means that they're trying to suppress private communications talking about that.
They're trying to cut horizontal ties with people. And from what I understand, one of the senators openly said it on TV recently. And I have not seen it. I've heard of it. I have not seen it myself, but I'm sure it happened, and I'm going to have it in my Friday news report. So they're open about that. They're saying we don't want people to talk to each other in Russia. Okay. You say that we usually don't touch the front lines. Well, we can. No one is stopping us. I know for sure that things are not well on the front lines right now. The communications have been cut. First, as you said, first Starlink, and then Telegram and other messengers, and there's been an outrage in Russian Z community, in Russian army. Basically, the army has been left without communication. And imagine that the second army in the world, the second strongest army in the world, doesn't have own communication, relies on American satellites and an American, software, and American telephones. It's just unbelievable. There are two types of phones in Russia. There's iOS, Apple, and Android. And they say, well, Android is not American. Of course it is. The operating system is designed by Google. Give me a break. So they have nothing of their own. And of course, things are not looking well. And I think we all understand that the Russian armed forces are done. They won't be able to push further, and at best, they are holding their positions. I personally think not for long, but we'll see about that. And inside Russia, if I had two words to describe what's happening, it's chaos and panic. Because they did shut down internet in a pretty much entire Russia. And it's not like a solid shutdown, but the internet has slowed down a great deal and started working selectively and very, very unreliably. Okay, that affects everyone's lives. Everyone's. It affects businesses. First of all, businesses cannot sell their products or services. They cannot charge cards. This is it. They're done. They're closing by tens of thousands every single week. Companies cannot submit information to IRS, Internal Revenues Tax Service, because tax service had pushed all the businesses into online, and now online is dead. It's not there. You can't send it, or you can send reports with a huge delay. Like I talked to a couple accountants, they complained. They said, "Look, we send a document to IRS, and then they receive it the next day, and where we cannot send that out because we don't have internet, and we have to wait until a few hours later, and then the companies can't pay bills." So businesses don't really know what to do, and people at the tax service, they don't know what to do either. Because, companies call them and said, what do we do? And they say, we don't know. We're in the same shoes as you are. Regular people can't speak to each other. They can't, their life is absolutely, should I say disturbed? What's the right word? Not destroyed, but disturbed greatly.
Disrupted, certainly.
Disrupted,
Yeah.
that's the right word. Disrupted. They can't order taxis. They can't make online purchases. They can't find information. They can't continue getting education because a lot of online services, you get your education, including Russian schools. Partially there are online now. Well, not any longer. Can't use navigation. You have to dust off your paper maps if you have them, and things like that. And Russians for the past week, they're in a state of shock. They don't know what to do. I know for sure that many companies are going to close down because they just don't know how to work, how to market, how to sell, how to charge other companies in current environment. People are extremely upset. People are laid off by hundreds of thousands. The layoffs now, they used to be suppressed in the media. Now they don't even care suppressing them. In Moscow, 15% of all employees are getting municipal employees are getting laid off. Large companies such as Yandex are laying 15% off of the entire personnel. Big, large banks started following the suit, things like that. So it's chaos and panic right now, and this is exactly the economic tsunami I've been talking about for 4 years. We discussed this exact situation so many times, and if to make an analogy with Titanic, we talk a lot about Titanic hitting the iceberg. Now, this is the moment, I think, when a lot of people were trying to evacuate, when the Titanic was still afloat, and it was angling more and more, but people were still, and then all of a sudden they see the water rushing to them, and they're panic and they run around terrified, okay, and then they jump overboard and things like that. This is the moment. So some parts of the Titanic already deep down, okay, and people on the other side, they're still on top, but they're in panic. They don't know what's going on. Oh, all of a sudden, Titanic is sinking. Everything was fine 10 minutes ago, and now, boom. Oh, we didn't know it hit the iceberg. We didn't know things were happening. Okay, that I think you understand
We get the analogy,
my
definitely.
sarcasm.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're all waiting for the orchestra to strike up the Libidine Ozera as well.
Yeah.
Swan
So many
Lake.
people I talk to, very smart, intelligent people, they ask me this question, what's going on? What is all of a sudden our life is no more. That's not what it used to be. When is it gonna end? I said, "Oh, well, I'm sorry to say that, but good morning. Great that you just woke up. It's just the beginning. It's not you haven't seen anything yet. It's just the first signs of this huge collapse that is coming to you."
That's
So
it. And read
that's
some
it.
history
Yeah.
books because I think if people aren't familiar with the history of the early 20th century in Russia, and I don't know, five, the revolution, the first revolution in 1917, the second one, and then the various processes in the 30s, the 50s, the 70s, the 90s. If they're not aware of all these transitions, then what's coming is going to be a tremendous shock to them.
When I'm really upset and when I talk to someone and they really get onto my nerves, I try to be, polite. But when I really go off, I usually tell them this, uh, people have heads not only to eat into them, okay, but also to think. And this is exactly what Russians have found in themselves in this situation. They have woken up, and for the past 4 years, they've using their heads just to put their food into them. That's all. And now all of a sudden they start asking questions. Is it too
This is
late?
it.
Perhaps.
It reminds me of a book cover that really stuck with me. I think it's called Zavarshi Vysati, rather than Visarshi Vysati. It's a sort of satirical. I think it was I can't remember the name of the author, but it was a satirical author from the 1990s, and it had this picture of people walking around Red Square, but they were upside down and their clothes were on the right way. So basically, where the heads were is where the butts were showing, and I like, but that was a satire on late stage communism. Uh, but you could equally transpose that to the period now, unfortunately, where people just want to pretend none of this is happening. They just want it to go away and they want normality to resume. Unfortunately, we have a similar situation, I think, in the US, where people are thinking, okay, well, once Trump's gone, once Trump is done, then everything can return to normal. Well, unfortunately, when a spring has been deformed, stretched too far, it's not going to return to the shape and performance that it had before. And I think this is why these conversations are relevant because even when Putin finally kicks the bucket, even when Trump shuffles off this mortal coil, the damage these people have done will not be repaired, I think, anytime soon. And we have to be prepared for what's happening next. The next question I wanted to point to you is, of course, we've had a lot of conversation, a lot of debate about whether the war against Iran and the huge spike in oil prices is basically saved Putin and his war effort. And there's a lot of concern, actually, that his budget, may be balanced, that he may get this huge amount of money. I tend to think that actually this is only beneficial to him in the short term, and this is not going to fix his long-term problems. But we're back to oil. What do you think is happening here with this huge rise in oil prices? Does it benefit Putin, or is this illusory?
it is benefiting Putin in the moment, right now, and it benefits, it does benefit, but not as much as people think. There are circumstances. You have to understand that the sanctions have been lifted from oil that has already been shipped and paid for. Okay, it's only oil in the tankers in the sea, and this sanction lift from easement from the USA is temporary, and it has limits. It's for 1 month, for 30 days, as far as I understand. Now, of course, everything can go different ways, and there is a scenario where Vladimir Putin can get a gift from the USA, and that gift could last a long time. If instability in the Gulf region continues, if the Straits of Hormuz remain closed or unsafe for passing through, then there's a possibility that oil is going to remain in higher price. And then, yes, it will benefit Putin and his economy. It's not going to save it, but it's going to ease the pressure that we're seeing right now. So I'm saying that Russia right now economically is falling apart. It has fallen apart already. There are salaries unpaid since December in different Russian provinces. Over 50 Russian provinces went to commercial banks to get private loans guaranteed by the state to pay off their federal employees because they're absolutely out of money. This is the collapse, okay? Now, if Putin all of a sudden has an influx of petrodollars from this current situation, then yes, the federal employees will get paid for now. And if it continues for months and years, yes, he will be getting some money. There are threats for Putin. First of all, I personally think it's not going to last for a very long time, and the sanctions will come back to they will be slapped back onto Russian oil. I believe that the markets are going to react because hey, it's all about free markets, okay? They're not getting oil from the main suppliers, but they're not the only ones who you can get oil from. From different countries, they're going to increase production of oil, I think, in the very near future. And I don't believe this will save Putin and save his war efforts. Definitely, it's a gift, but it's a short-term gift. It is very unfortunate and sad because that will allow him to create more, produce more missiles, more bullets, more guns, and kill more people. That definitely will happen. Okay, but is it something that will save his regime, his life, his war efforts? I don't think so.
Well, before I ask the sort of last question here, I have discovered the book. I was going to say it was by an author called Zinoviev, and I was correct. It was by Alexander Zinoviev, and it's called Zyaющие Высоты, which means the sort of abysmal heights or yawning heights. And it's a satire on the Soviet Union written in 1976. And it's about the inhabitants of a town called Ibansk. And all the people in that town are called Ivanovich Ivanov. You can kind of get the crudity of the satire there. And one of the sub-satires is, turns out that the majority of the inhabitants of Ibansk live in actually a secret town called Subibansk, which is basically buried deep underground where the theoretical rulers of Ibansk live above surface, but the majority of the people live underground, and they subsist off the sewage produced by Ibansk on the surface. So this is quite a brutal satire on the Soviet Union. Unfortunately, it could just as well be applied to Putin's militarized society.
Absolutely. I really love Zinoviev's works, although they're mostly unknown in Russia. I remember when I was in school, Gorbachev's Glasnost started allowing we were allowed to read more and see more and discuss more. Okay, and that's where Zinoviev started appearing in Russian culture because he had been banned and outlawed by the Soviet state before. And I remember Boris Yeltsin meeting him in Paris and having debates with Zinoviev. It was mind blowing. Okay, um, I think most all Russians should read Zinoviev's works because you pinpointed it. It seems like he wasn't writing about the USSR. He was writing about today's Russia. Okay, so um, I'm not sure if he's outlawed in Russia, censored out or not, but
That's an interesting
I'd
question.
recommend
Yes.
everyone to go ahead and read these works. Great
I mean,
philosopher and great writer.
I can imagine they wouldn't be particularly popular. Another one which is probably well definitely out of favor with the current regime is Vladimir Sorokin, um, which Dina Prishnika and various other things there, and his glorious invention of Norma. If you've read that one, I mean it's brutal kind of satire. Again, unfortunately, kind of
He's been
applicable
banned.
now.
He's been banned.
Of course he has. Yeah.
He's Denia Prichnika has been removed from stores. So the regime doesn't like his books.
No, not surprising at all. The last area here is, and this again is speculation, but it seems that Russia, Putin is failing his allies, failing them either because of weakness or cowardice, but mainly because of lack of capacity. He hasn't supported Iran in the way I think it would be expecting Russia to support. He didn't support Syria. The regime fell. Next, it's rumored that Cuba may be wonderful. And then there's Maduro as well. It's even thought that perhaps Putin sort of signed that one off. Like, okay, well, the US is going to do that. Anyway, we're not going to stop it. What can we gain? And the rumor is that there was some private deal between Putin and Trump in Alaska, where they basically said, yes, you have Venezuela, and we'll have Ukraine. That hasn't quite worked out like that because Ukraine wasn't Trump's to sell. But do you think there's some truth here that Russia is no longer able to support its allies and proxies around the world, and that we are in a process of seeing them fall one by one?
It's not a matter of what I think. It's a matter of fact. And the fact is that Russia has lost all allies except for North Korea. But you know what? I can't really call North Korea. It's a formal ally of Russia. Okay, but I wouldn't rely on North Korea a great deal. Um, as you mentioned, Putin has lost. Now, he was making such a big deal out of Russia's position in the world and its role as the shaker of the system. Okay. For 3 years, from late 21 to 24, all we heard was bipolar world. Oh, not bipolar, I'm sorry, multipolar. One polar, the United States, hegemon has gotta go. We're not going to live in the world. We're gonna break it. Russia will break this system, and it's gonna be polar world, and there's gonna be a lot of countries opposing the West, opposing colonialism, neo-colonialism, opposing. There's going to be the global South, and Russia is going to lead the global, unite and lead it. And they're going to use the instrument called BRICS, the union of uh, different countries, and those in the global South will follow. So that was the narrative. Right now, if you look at Russian propaganda, I think they're more preparing to find the ways how to turncoat in the future than to, hail Russia as continue hailing Russia as a geopolitical leader and so forth. Um, the BRICS is gone. I mean, it's still there on paper, but no one talks about BRICS anymore. um, the allies are gone. Maduro, Syria, Bashar Assad, um, Armenia, Azerbaijan. Well, Russia made a deal with Azerbaijan about Armenia, and yeah, you could say it used to be an ally. Turkey pretended to be an ally. You know, Erdogan and Putin had a relationship, and now Iran. And not only Russia has betrayed Iran, not by not honoring its agreement it signed in January of 2025. I think it's a very little known, like a small known fact that Russia and Iran conducted joint naval exercises just a week prior to the start of the war in Iran. Okay, so Russia was assuring Iran that, you know, worst comes to worst, Iran had support of Russia. Okay, and then a week later, 10 days later, Russia betrayed by not providing any help to Iran. Moreover, Putin forgot about the agreement they signed 1 year prior. But then, moreover, Putin is using this situation to sell oil instead of halt oil sales. No, he's just saying, "Hey, Iran is our ally and friend, and we're trying to help you, to help him, and to help it, and then therefore we're not participating in oil trade, and we're putting this pressure on the Strait of Hormuz even higher, and then the global markets in chaos." No, no, no. Putin never said a word. Dmitry Peskov, his spokesperson, came out and said, "Well, this isn't our war." Well, that's your closest ally. You have a written agreement out of 40 plus articles of this agreement, including the military aid to each other. Okay. And then they say, "Well, it's not our war." Okay. So Putin is backstabbing Iran. He's not just not helping it, it's backstabbing. And basically, that's the end of Russia and Vladimir Putin as geopolitical players because everyone sees what happens to allies of Russia. Everyone sees that Russia is incapable of uniting, leading, and it's basically not a major player any longer. Things have changed. Just 9 months ago, Russia was playing a much bigger role. Remember May 9th parade? 27 leaders of countries, big and small, including China and two European countries, flew to Moscow to shake Putin's hand and to, you know, um, honor him. And then Putin was invited to China in September. So throughout the world, it looked like Russia was big again, back on the stage. Trump held the peace summit in Anchorage in Alaska, and then he brought Putin and he greeted him with he gave him royal treatment, royal greeting with a red carpet and military parade. So it was a big deal. Look where Russia is now. It's down on the bottom, in dirt. So I think this is the end of Russia as the geopolitical player, a strong one. And it's the end of Russia pretending to be a strong geopolitical player.
And that to an extent is good, not just because of the malicious influence that it's had in so many countries, but in future, of course, it would be beneficial for Russians themselves if their government was to focus on improving their lives and infrastructure, not on foreign adventures. The same could be said it has about the US, in fact,
Absolutely.
with extraordinary, military budget when its schools are crumbling and underfunded, and its healthcare system is underfunded. So this is a lesson perhaps for all countries. Of course, when there are threatening dictators and autocrats around, that doesn't mean we withdraw everything to defense. Defense is incredibly important in a dangerous world. So, I don't want to give the impression that I'm a complete sort of pacifist in all circumstances. No, democracy has to be able to defend itself against threats.
I couldn't have said better myself.
For today, that's it. I think we will have a new bunch of questions, but I've got a whole load of questions still today, but I think we've covered the core topics that I wanted to get through. We'll have another conversation very, very soon, and no doubt there will also be a struggle in order what to prioritize then, because so much is happening. And as we've said over and over, Putin's regime is showing signs of brittleness that is going to accelerate, and we will continue to pick through the details that are public and some of the details that are not so public in helping people to bring this story to life. Konstantin, thank you for coming back on. Thank you for everything that you do.
Jonathan, thank you so very much. And I'd like to make a little announcement. Next time, I hope to see you on my channel, Inside Russia, and I will try to interview you. It's really hard to keep up with you because you do such a fantastic job. But, interviewing is something new for me, but I'd like to bring interesting people to Inside Russia. And sometimes next week, everyone, please expect Jonathan to be a guest at Inside Russia.
I look forward to that, and we'll be making an interesting announcement. I won't mention what it is now, but I very much look forward to that. And of course, one of the things we're going to be talking about, I think people will find very, very interesting indeed. Konstantin, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jonathan.